a little early. This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Sports with Mac, Jack, and Jim. Jeffcoat, he's out of the country today, so he won't be on with us until we get our guests on. So, Jack, I'm your host, Mac, and that's your co-host, Jack Hirsch. Yesterday, the Kentucky Derby, Jack, we had our guest on, Jason Gonzalez, on Saturday to talk a little bit about the Derby. There was a little-known horse who only had his fourth race as a horse, Majay. He wins the Derby. Of course, our expert, and I guess it's hard to pick really who's going to win and who's going to show and all that stuff, because the odds are different on every horse, and you got your favorites and you got your underdogs. Majay came out of nowhere to win it. Gonzalez predicted that his favorite would be King's Barn, and King's Barn finished 14th. His upset special, if you were going to take a long shot, was out of gate 17. Little difficult to pronounce, so I'll give it my best shot. Dema Soda Gake comes in 6. So
that's not a bad prediction for long shot, Max.
No,
it's not a bad prediction.
Yeah, I mean, he almost 3 more horses he would have showed or placed. So in the history of the Derby, the horse in gate 17 has not won in 149 years, Jack. So the Majay's owner got $1 million. We were talking about the way it's set up as far as payouts go. A little unfair to the jockeys, how much money they get for riding those horses. But overall, Jack, you said you watched it. How was it?
Yeah, Two Phils was leading most of the race, and I tried to sometimes compare this to a human race. The Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles. And I like to compare in a sense, like I just said a moment ago, to the mile race in track and field of the 1,500 meters, which is very close to a mile. And whenever a runner takes the lead, and in this case, a horse, Two Phils, fairly early in the race, what are the chances of them holding the lead the whole way through? We hear the term wire to wire. That means from the beginning of the race to the end of the race. But that's the hardest way to win a race, because you're in the front, you're expending all this energy, and you don't have anyone else pacing you. You don't have anyone else to play off of, to bounce off of, to race beside, who's going to help set the pace. You're setting the pace for the rest of the field. And the other runners, and in this case, the horses who are behind Mage with their jockeys, they can focus on the lead horse, okay? And they can wait for the right time to make their move. And the horse in the lead doesn't see what the horses are doing behind them. The jockey doesn't see. So what happened? Mage was kind of laying in wait, staying a little behind. And during the last quarter mile, a little inside the last quarter mile of the race, made a move, went to the front. Two Phils tried desperately to keep up, and credit the Two Phils for holding on and coming in, second place. Normally when a horse leads like that most of the race and then gets overtaken, you see the jockey of Two Phils frantically, with the whip and so on, trying to get the horse moving to keep up. And it has to be really discouraging, Mac. You're leading most of the race, and you can kind of sense in a way, I might win the Kentucky Derby a little more. Let me push it out, like you're so close. Then you have Mage kind of overtake you in the late stage of the race to win it. But it was a very competitive race, a very good race.
Yeah, good morning, Rick. Yeah, we were talking about this. Jason picked a couple horses that didn't do well, especially King's Barn. The Gate 17 horse, again, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, Demasota Gake, came in 6th. So that wasn't a bad prediction. I mean, he was up near the front. So again, Gate 17 hasn't produced a winner in 149 years.
You do think going forward, it's going to be a thing with superstition, whoever's assigned to Gate 17? Do they have, what we didn't ask Jason Gonzalez, do the jockeys and owners have any say what gate they can be put in? Can they argue? Is there like a commission they could appeal to? Let's say you get a very suspicious owner and jockey and they don't want to be in Gate 17 no matter what, because as you said, Mac, it hasn't won in the history of the Derby, Gate 17, to be taken out of the gate. Me personally, I want to be in Gate 17. I want the chance to make history, to do something no one else ever did before, win from a certain gate, because it would gather a lot more attention and just add to the victory if you got it.
I don't think they have a choice. I think it's based off the performance of the horses in past races, or the newer horses versus the horses that are there. There were quite a few scratches yesterday of horses not running. That might have threw a wrench into who won and who didn't win too. So I mean, there's a lot more to racing than I realized anyway. Including the jockeys who don't make as much as we thought they made. It starts at 10%, and from there, where the horse places, it goes down. And I think what the producer told me or told us was that only the top 5 actually get paid, Jack.
Yeah, I don't know. They probably have a deal with the horse's owner where they get a certain salary. I mean, they have to make a living throughout the year, so I'm sure something is worked out. Another fascinating part of any major horse race, any horse race altogether, is the start of the race. Because very early in this race, in the Kentucky Derby, a couple of the favorites were far behind right off the bat. And I know there was time to make up the gap, but I don't think you want to fall too far behind in the beginning. They were in the back of the field. They weren't in the greatest position. And you notice when they get the horse into at the start, when they get him into, what do you call it? Not a stable, Mac. You know what I mean? For the start of the race, they start the race immediately because the horse is too antsy. You can't wait. It's not like a human being waiting at the start of the line, waiting for the official start before they take off. They quickly push the horse in practically into that little box, and then they start the race immediately. And you wonder whether the horse is ready and whether the jockey's even ready, because he's thinking, I got to calm this horse down. I got to get this horse ready. And before he knows it, the race is underway.
Good morning, Keith. How you doing? As you can hear, good morning. Keith Engle from TGI Sports, who will be on a little bit after or even during our show. Keith, we're talking about the Kentucky Derby. I don't know if you watched it or not, if you're a big a race fan.
I do like the races, yes.
Yes, and Maje surprised everyone in their fourth, in only his 4th race, he wins the Derby over some of the favorites. And, this is quite a feat. I mean, to win a Derby after only racing 3 other times is almost unheard of.
No, it is great. Very rare do you get that. You do get a lot of upsets in these races, more than you think. And I thought it was nice because Javier Castellano is a Hall of Fame jockey and had never won before either. So I thought that was a kind of a nice story as well. And kind of a tough week in Kentucky with horses expiring, if you will, for a lot of different reasons. So
yeah.
But I get into that not to. I guess just a touch on that, because I've got some friends that are really like big on the how animals are treated and whatnot, and that horse races are mistreated. And I don't agree with them, because these horses, they're bred to run, and that's what they want to do. They want to run. And I understand it's a dangerous game, but that's what they want to do. You wouldn't be doing them a favor by putting them in a stall or just out to pasture. They want to run.
Right. So. Just before we'll get to look at the Knicks and the Patriots and that. But one more thing on this. Our expert yesterday, Jason Gonzalez, commented on this, and it's very true. These horses are right next to each other. One mistake, one bad thing, and could wipe out the horse and the jockey and so on. So these guys are very, very, they're very. I don't know what the word I'm trying to say here, but man, they really know how to ride these horses.
They do, and I don't know if people really consider jockeys athletes, but I think they're tremendous athletes. They're able to control these powerful animals, and they're small guys, but they got to work out, and they got to be strong. Their hands and arms got to be strong, and especially their hands. So I think they're tremendous athletes. I agree, and it's a dangerous. I mean, not every race is like the Derby where it's just I'm trying to think of I had a phrase in my head. I can't think of it now because it's just a cavalry charge out of that gate with 20 times 20 plus horses, 18 yesterday, right? You don't see that in every race, but it's very dangerous. As you said, these guys are moving along pretty quick in close quarters, and these animals can be unpredictable for sure.
There was always an argument, what are race car drivers really athletes? And I guess you could compare them to jockeys, where you got this big, powerful thing underneath you, and you've got to control it in tight turns and in the traffic.
Yeah. Well, yes, the debate about auto racers goes on. I think they are to be able to sit there and control that vehicle for 3.5 hours or 4 hours. And listen, I don't know if they got bladder buddies or what, but I can't go 25 miles without going to the bathroom, much less 250.
Yeah, it's a young man's game, Keith. Let's get to the Knicks. I was very disappointed, as I told Jack before the show. They didn't even show up for this game. Randall, of course, is still hurt. He didn't play well. The rest of the Knicks didn't pick up the slack like they have during the year. I'm not panicking, but Miami sure put it on the Knicks last night.
Yeah, I think the thing that disturbed me the most was what I perceived as a lack of fight from this team. They just didn't. I mean, they got off poorly. They just didn't seem to be. They didn't have fight. I don't know how else to describe it. And I don't like the word quit. I don't think they quit because I don't think they ever started. It's not like they got punched in the face and they kind of just let it slide. Like Mike Tyson. What's Mike Tyson say, Jack? What's his famous saying there? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. Which, in the case of Brunson, Keith, he's had a great year for the Knicks.
Yep.
But in reality, Brunson isn't the type of player who's going to carry a team for a given game, for a given couple of games. But you can't count on him to carry a team during a series because he's not a superstar. He's not a Giannis, a Steph Curry, and Embiid, a LeBron, and Anthony Davis, or whoever. He's just a heck of a good player, very good player. He's been a great leader. He'd be a great number 2. I think Julius Randle is hurt a lot more than we're being told. That's my impression. This isn't the same Julius Randle early in the year. And I don't think it was because of a lack of effort. I just think physically he wasn't there. Ironically, R.J. Barrett showed a lot of fight yesterday. Something about he was the guy who was trying to step up and lead. But R.J. Barrett, at the end of the day, really isn't the type of guy who's going to take a game over.
No, I don't think this team can win consistently without, Julius Randle at least 80. He doesn't even look at 80% to me. I mean, he's out there battling through this injury, and I'll give him credit for that. But, he's not certainly even close to the player we saw earlier in the year, as you said. And the Knicks can't win without him. They're not good enough. This is they're playing good basketball. They have played good basketball the second half of the season. And, up to this point, they've played a couple bad games in this series, but it's still a flawed team. So they need to be, it's got to be a perfect storm for them to be able to continue this run. And you just can't take nights off. And you've seen it now twice in this series where they really have not gotten off the mat at all.
What really bothers me too is Josh Hart. I mean, he's been playing so well. I was hoping that they would put him on Butler, and it's for some reason they still haven't. He's a heck of a defender, and he can stay with Butler, and I don't know why Thibodeau is not putting him on him, Keith.
I don't either. I mean, maybe he figured Butler wasn't going to be a much of a factor because of his own injury, but he played pretty well yesterday, I thought, considering his injury as well. And different people can play better. And I don't know, you can't compare injuries. I mean, I think they're similar injuries, but severity is, and everybody plays different with pain. So he stepped up very well. I thought he was probably an inspiration for the Heat as well. So the Knicks really got their backs to the wall now. They've got to win Game 4 in my mind to have a chance in this series.
Keith, I'm the coach. Tell me why I shouldn't do this. And this is a gutsy move that I'm going to tell you right now. If Randall is as hurt as we think he is, I can't worry about Randall's feelings. I mean, not big time. You got to win Game 4. I step up with Obi Toppin. This is his time. I sit him down. You're starting. This is your game.
Yeah.
You play like an all-star. You're getting a lot of minutes, Obi. I want you to be a star in this game. It's time. He's been with the Knicks a while. I think Obi Toppin would be up to it for a given game. I could see Obi Toppin them playing him and him coming through with 35 points, a lot of rebounds, and having a big-time game. They need that type of spark for Game 4 rather than caught out an injured Randall and lose Game 4 and go down 3-1.
Yeah, I was a little surprised he didn't play Toppin more here, especially as this game started to get out of hand, because Toppin's had some big games late in the season and in the playoffs even. And Thibodeau has gotten away from that sticking with his guys thing that he likes to do. And Randall sat out the fourth quarter of one of the Cleveland games. He sat out games where he probably wanted to play. And but Thibodeau's he can't get away from that now. He's got to, like you said, I would have given Obi some more time, definitely, because
and another thing, guys, we've had a lot of fun on this show talking about contracts and different sports. We had a lot of fun with the Judge contract, this contract, that contract. What about the Emmanuel Quickly contract? What a dilemma that the Knicks have at the end of the year. Let's say he doesn't step up the rest of the playoffs. Do you sign him? Do you lay out some big money, or you don't?
I think it's going to depend on what other moves that the Knicks make, because there's some talk about Giannis maybe finding his way to New York. If you read the New York papers, not happy in Milwaukee. And if you're going to bring in that type of contract, then you're going to have to cut somewhere else. And, I'll make that trade every day, by the way. I love Quickly.
I'll give him the rest of the Knicks team if Giannis comes in. You take everyone and I'll build around Giannis. I'll start off.
Yeah, you probably would. You probably might have to, but look, that's probably a pipe dream. But
it is. It is. Giannis ain't going nowhere. He loves Milwaukee. The Yankees beat Tampa Bay 3-2. Not a bad pitching outing. And our center fielder, there's a batter comes through with a
Harrison
Bader.
Yeah,
batter sounds cooler. Bader comes through with a big hit. But still, the Yankees have a lot of problems, and I don't know if they're going to be able to solve them before the year's out, Keith.
There's just so many different issues, right? I mean, there's the issues with the injuries. There's the issues with why am I so? Oh, I know what I did. Hang on one second.
Okay.
But
I got yeah, go ahead. I got a little.
An interesting thing happened in the Yankee game yesterday that slipped under the radar. Clay Holmes, who'd been the closer, they were projecting as the closer this year, but who struggled in that role, he came in middle relief. I mean, he didn't close the game out yesterday, so that's kind of a little interesting.
Yeah, well, he hasn't pitched consistently all year. And getting back to what I was saying before, sorry, I had a little problem with my feed there. I don't know what's going on. I moved my office to the basement as we're getting ready to sell this house, and there's a lot of work getting done around. There's so many issues going on between injuries and guys not playing well. And look, I said before, the starting staff was, an issue, and there's been too many starts by guys like Brito. And even though I like Clark Schmidt, he hasn't pitched well. These guys have a lot of starts between them. Herman's pitched well the last couple of times, but they got 20 plus starts between those three guys. That's not a good sign for this Yankee team. And now I hate to say there's a big win here the first weekend in May, but this team couldn't afford to go in here and come home 12 games out of first place.
But Keith, isn't that a little bit overrated with the 3 wild card slots?
Maybe.
I mean, if you put the Yankees in some of the other divisions, and they're like 3 games out or something, it just looks bad because the Rays are off to a phenomenal start. No one's talking about the Mets. I think the Mets would be a game behind the Yankees, you put them in the same division.
I think the Yankees' issues have helped the Mets a little bit, although they're starting to catch a little heat here, and so is Buck, unfortunately. Not to change the subject, obviously, but both teams are obviously not playing good baseball. And you know what? As Yogi used to say, it gets late early here, and you don't want to panic in May, but you don't win pennants in April and May, but you can lose them. And
no doubt.
Both these teams got to be
the
careful.
Games come back to haunt you late on.
Yeah,
sure do.
And your boy Hicks is 0 for 4 again yesterday. I just want to point out.
Jack is going
to listen. I would still stick with Aaron Hicks. I'm not saying playing full time. Don't misunderstand me.
Give him
the roster spot. He can have some big games. He was hitting the ball hard about a week ago, but it was at people. So, who else are you going to put out there? Some of the names. I mean, you have no alternatives right now.
Listen. I think the Yankees got to start bringing up their
Mac. You and especially Keith Engle are getting what you deserve with the Yankees. You want to know why? Because I kept saying, hold on to Gotti.
Oh,
Keith especially wanted to put Gotti out to pasture. He did, and look what's going on. Matt, you had Gotti then. Maybe appreciate him a little more.
Gardner again. Jack. Gardner is done. It's all done.
Because he was off a year last year. He could have played last year, maybe been back this year. I mean, who knows?
He graduated a year behind me in high school, for crying out loud.
But he's better than Aaron Hicks.
I will say he could probably pick up a bat today and be better than Hicks without any kind of
no doubt. There's no doubt about it. I think any one of us could be better than Hicks right now.
But that's not setting the bar very high. So.
It's not. So let's talk a little bit about your Patriots, Keith. They got the former tight end Mike Gasick, and they're pretty impressed with him right now over there. You guys need the tight end in that offense.
They need it. It's an important. And Bill O'Brien's offense is going to be similar to what they've run in the past, where tight ends were very important when they had when he was here before. They had Gronkowski, and I think they might have even still had the nut job Hernandez here at that point. But they need red zone targets, and they don't have any. He's a good option for that, and I think he's going to be very important to this offense for sure. And I think. Mac Jones will come to appreciate his play very quickly in workouts and training camp.
Keith, I'd like to talk to Mac and myself about a bar. What's a successful season? Has the standards dipped significantly for New England? Let's say the Patriots go 10-7 and get in the playoffs and lose the first playoff game. I get the feeling that's a success now. For this year, for one given year, for next season.
Well, given this, that is successful golf to what we've done here the last 3 seasons. So, if you want to measure it just against that, then that's a successful season. If you want to measure it against the last 23 years, then no.
But no one's measuring 23 years. The New England Patriots, as they stand now, 10-7, first round loss. I think,
I don't see that. I don't see it as a successful season. I didn't see 2 years ago as a successful season when they got to the playoffs and got wiped out by Buffalo. No, I didn't see that successful at all.
But the bar was higher then.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I'm probably spoiled, right? I mean,
it's just like the Yankee fans. It's just like the Yankee fans.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I get it, and I forget that the first, 20 years I was a Patriot fan, or 25 years, whatever it was. Can't remember how old I am, but they were awful. Except for a handful of years, they were really bad. So I got to remember that. And I said this to my friends and the people who would, get on us. I said, someday we're going to be just like everybody else and we'll have to deal with that. And now we're just like everybody else. And
no, you're not as good as everyone else in the East.
No. Well, I meant as far as not being going to win Super Super Bowls and contend for Super Bowls every single year for 20 years. Nobody's ever going to do that again, probably.
I the more we talk, the more I see the similarities between the Yankees and the Patriots. Two great dynasties for a long time. Had some bad years before, and now we're not playing well either. So
there are a lot of parallels.
There really are. Your first draft pick, a rookie was signed. A Keyshawn Battle, Keith wide receiver. They're expecting him to be the rookie that comes in right away and starts playing.
I think he will. I think they want him to, yes. And he's got a high ceiling, low risk because they only picked him, I think, I want to say in the, I can't remember now, 5th or 6th round, whatever. And they got a couple of wide receivers in those spots. He played really well 2 years ago, LSU. Had some problems with Brian Kelly and his staff last year. Didn't play nearly as well. Maybe he might need a little attitude adjustment. I'm sure he'll get that as he gets into Patriots and indoctrination. But the kid's got a lot of upside, and the Patriots need that, right? They need this kid. They need Thornton to step up in his second year, which I think they're very hopeful that will happen. And he showed flashes last year that he could be a good player too. So I like Botti. I'm not even sure how to say his name yet. I haven't even figured it out. So I just have done it phonetically. I'm sure I'm wrong. But he's a nice addition to this team. And Mac Jones needs those guys, some of these guys to step up.
Yeah, Mac Jones or Zappy, either one, whoever starts, Keith. Remember that. So,
gosh. Zappy with you and the clipboard carrier with Jack. I mean,
we want to support you. Yeah, we want to support the Patriots at all costs. Anything else that you can think of with the Patriots? I don't follow them as close as you do, Keith.
No, I mean, again, they had a good draft. It's funny how a lot of people are down on their draft, and I'm not, because I think they had 12 picks, which is the most they've had in, I can remember, maybe 20 years. And I think they got a lot of quality, decent quality players in a draft that didn't have a lot of really like standouts, let's say.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job of filling need on the offensive line, and obviously they got some people to compete in the kicking game as well. Nick Folk's going to get pushed by the kid they drafted from Maryland in the kicking game, and I think this is good. There's going to be a lot of competition on the offensive line, which I think is very good. And they've got a new offensive line coach, which they're very high on, in Clem, who came from Oregon, I believe. And Dante Scarnecchia had been pushing for the team to bring this guy in for like 3 years. Dante Scarnecchia was the offensive line coach and served other positions as well for like 30 years with the Patriots. He's a legend in Foxborough, and he's been pushing for this guy for a long time. And I think he'll have a big influence in that offense as well.
2 more questions for you. I think, and I've said this on the show before, I think the winning teams in the league right now are the younger teams, the Pirates and the Diamondbacks and even the Orioles to a point. This is, to me, is the wave of the future, the MLB. You get these guys before they turn stars, you sign them to long-term contracts, and the excitement, great on the payroll, and the Yankees and the Mets still fall into we're going to get these overpriced veterans that everybody knows, and we're going to build our team that way, and it just doesn't work anymore. You want the star quality there for show, for fans to go see these guys, but there's a difference between show and winning, Keith. And I think the Yankees, who have started, should be bringing up more of their young guys to fill, especially the outfield.
Well, look at the Astros built their team pretty much the same way. That team that's been contending for championships for I don't even know how long it is now. It's at least 8 years. That's how they built that team. There wasn't a lot of big free agents brought in. When they brought in Verlander, they traded for, I believe, or they get him in a free agent. I can't remember. But they built the core of that team the way you talked about through their system. And the Mets were starting to do that with Alonso and Nemo and Conforto, who's gone, obviously, but then they've kind of gone the Yankee way here, $2 $40 million pitchers, and that's a lot of payroll to wrap up in those 2 guys. I don't think you can do it. It depends on the organization, how good they are. I'm not sold on the Pirates. They've lost 6 in a row. Don't forget, by the way. The Orioles might be a different situation. This is now a year and almost a year since they started to really start to get it together. So they played consistent baseball for close to a year now. They aren't a flash in the pan. Of all these teams that are a surprise, I think they're the ones that have the most staying power, probably. Them and the Rays. The Rays are a surprise, but they're you didn't mention them.
Yeah.
No, Mac, you're talking about bringing up all the young players. You don't bring them up unless they're going to play. They're better off playing in the minor leagues and getting the work and then sitting on the bench. And there's not many job openings for the Yankees. The Yankees are an established team trying to get to the
and
world.
the outfielder is Jack.
No. You've got Beta and Judge at 2 slots. So you have one potential slot, and you have Cabrera. You could have him there, playing. He's one of their young players. So there you go. He's gotten playing time there. And at third base, okay, you got Pedraza, but these guys have been brought up. Okay, that's the thing. Yeah. Now, you make a good point with signing guys very early. The Yankees have no imagination. They should have signed Aaron Judge a few years ago. If they were smart, sign Anthony Volpe to a 15-year contract right now to age 36. Give him very good money.
Without
save a ton of money.
I agree with you. On my way out the door, I'm going to agree with you, Jack, but don't give them opt-outs, because when their contract
no opt-outs.
When that contract's obsolete in 3 years, I don't want to hear about it, right? I agree with you, though.
Yeah.
All right, Keith, have a good one and take care of yourself.
Yeah, Keith. We'll talk more about this, Keith, next time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And folks, we now have Robert Butler from Sports Skope joining us. How you doing today, Robert?
Good morning, guys.
Hey, good morning.
It's still nighttime here in Nashville.
Yeah.
By the way, you got, and I want to congratulate you on your latest award. I heard rumored you're going to get as the best dressed person on the Mac and Jack show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I'll put it with my other awards there.
Well, Robert, I gave you a couple topics, and of course, a lot of sports happen overnight, so it's hard to get you a lot of stuff sometimes. But the head coach of the Bucks fired, championship-winning coach, just like some of the other coaches that were championship winners got fired. Why in the world are you firing a coach who just took you to a championship not too long ago, and the team plays well for him?
Mac, just let me add in one thing to what you said. After they won the NBA championship, the next year they didn't, but he was coach of the year.
Right.
Bud Heiser.
Right.
However you pronounce his name.
Yeah. My guess is, guys, it's easier to move off of a coach than it is to move off of a player. It seems like the general managers get the benefit of the doubt when they miss on a player. Now, Budenholzer, he was on the verge of being fired prior to winning that championship. It seemed like that team, there was talk of simply Milwaukee was underachieving, and then they win the championship, and then this year you're the 1 seed, and then you get beat by an 8 seed, even though we know that Giannis was a little bit banged up. I can of the other ones like Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, I can understand the reason for his firing over their firings.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
But Nick Nurse, Toronto won, the NBA championship, like 3 years ago or so. And it just
and they were still in the playoffs, So
they were still
I like Nick Nurse.
They underachieved, but there has to be a little more of a reason than the coach.
Right. Well, they lost Kawhi Leonard in free agency the year after, and
Kevin Lowry.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying, Robert, maybe they'll just exchange coaches. Maybe the Milwaukee go to Toronto go to Milwaukee. Who knows? I mean, they're all winning coaches, and they all got good teams to go to. Dexter Lawrence becomes the 3rd highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL today. Great run stopper, can get pressure on the quarterback, but it's kind of alarming to watch these defensive linemen. Now, we're not talking about edge rushers now. We're talking about interior linemen getting these big contracts, Robert.
Well, Chris Jones. If you look at Chris Jones's play, the defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, man, you could have gave part of that Super Bowl MVP to him because some of the interior play. Jeffrey Simmons signed a big deal here in Nashville a few weeks ago. I think Aaron Donald, I mean, how valuable was he in the Super Bowl year for the Rams? You know, getting pressure on top of the middle of the ball. I mean, God, I love for guys like Jim. You know, I mean, these guys over top of the ball, on the edge. More teams are putting emphasis into that position, those two positions, and you're seeing more successful Super Bowls out of that. I mean, you know, there's linebackers that are rated pretty low. They've been on the last few championship teams. Linebackers, safeties, but interior defensive linemen, edge rushers, that's where you're seeing a big difference being made. So, I think it's a pretty good signing. And he was second in Pro Football Focus's rating, only to Chris Jones last year. So he played really well.
Yeah, he did. He did have a great year.
Yeah.
NBA news. I guess we could start off with how dominating the Lakers were over the Warriors. A lot of people picked the Warriors to win that. Davis again with a huge game, and of course LeBron does his thing. Can the Warriors come back and win that, you think? And Robert, do you think they can win?
Yeah, the Warriors are really good at making in-series adjustments. You could see putting Kevin Looney in the last series on Sabonis. That made a big difference. Looney had 21 rebounds in that other series there. But the Warriors, I had the Lakers winning this thing in 6. I'm kind of in the minority here. I'm not a Lakers fan, but I just call balls and strikes. I thought that the Warriors would struggle with skilled bigs. And again, they have struggled with Anthony Davis, who's much more skilled than a Sabonis. The key is, can Davis hold up? Can these minutes hold up? They got 2 more games to go. The Lakers guys are now, according to OddsShark, they average all the markets together. They're second only to the Celtics to win the championship. I don't agree with that. I actually like Denver a little bit better, but I definitely think the Lakers are going to win it, but we'll see. I mean, you never know what Steve Kerr is going to pull out of his hat there as far as lineup is concerned for game 4.
D'Angelo Russell stepped up yesterday. He gave the Lakers a big boost. Schroeder off the bench. I mean, it was like a well-balanced attack with the Lakers. They weren't relying on Anthony Davis to dominate or LeBron to dominate. LeBron's remarkable what he does on defense. I mean, he really gets back. He made things hard on Golden State. Doing things that don't show up in the box score.
Yeah, he does. And, Rob Pelinka bringing back Russell, bringing in, I just call him Raul. I mean, it's a black guy. He's got a Japanese name. You know what I'm talking about, Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Hashimura? Is that his last name? Might as well be Ichiro Suzuki,
right.
Playing well. One thing, just in case, I'm not sure whether Mac was going to get to it. Maybe he would later on, but it's linked to the Lakers indirectly. Bronny James, LeBron's son, committed to USC.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yes,
He said it's the happiest day of his life. Something would be good for college and the pro game if Bronny just played 4 years at USC. Dad's got plenty of money.
Let me just ask you guys this. If I'm going off topic, Mac, reel me in here. Do you think Bronny feels an added pressure to go to the NBA a little earlier than he would? Because LeBron has stated over and over his dream is to play with Bronny. Let's say Bronny wants 4 years at USC. Money's not an issue because the James family is so ridiculously healthy. Of course, LeBron is always going to pass money down to his son, so his son, you'd assume, is set for life, even if he doesn't make a penny. And Bronny's made a few million on his own as is. He already has one of these endorsement deals. But what kind of pressure is the kid under to go to the NBA because of LeBron?
You just wonder if they had that conversation where, what if I really like staying here, Dad? And I got my friends. He may have a girlfriend or something. Obviously, USC, LA Lakers. That's what LeBron seems like he wants to happen. It would be interesting. It would be good for the league if he did it. LeBron said, "Hey, look, I'm dead poor." I mean, even though he really wouldn't. Out of Akron, Ohio, he was driving a Hummer his senior year. But son, you don't have to do that. We'll get him. It would be good for the league if he did. You know, it would really be good for the, and maybe LeBron comes off the bench at 42, 43.
Well, no, LeBron could play a few more years.
Yeah.
At some level.
Yeah.
But he
Play
doesn't
the
have a
Adonis Haslam road, Mac.
Right.
But guys,
right.
Bronny doesn't have a choice where he goes. Could you imagine Bronny gets drafted by, let's say, the Toronto Raptors, and LeBron packs up the family and they're leaving LA and they're relocating in Toronto so he could play with Bronny? Bronny doesn't have a choice exactly, you know, when the time comes.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's true. Very true. Booker, a lot of people, of course, talk about Durant, but what a game Booker has against Denver, 47 points. I mean, Durant does his thing. Durant's going to be Durant and grab his rebounds and make his shots. But Booker, to me, is the real star on there. And he put it on. He and Phoenix, I should say put it on. They beat Denver pretty significantly, 121-14. I still think Denver wins this series, Robert.
Me too. Yeah.
But I mean, Booker to me is a star that not a lot of people talk about.
He's a guy that he's really came into his own. I remember Shaq telling Dwayne Wade when they were down 0-2 years ago in the Dallas series, listen, man, I've had my time. We're going to put this on you. And if I'm Durant and Chris Paul, who's still out, I've kind of figured that. But I would make Booker be the center point of that team. And when we're needed, we'll do our thing. Maybe lighten up on Durant, because Booker is the man right now. He's he's had a great playoff period, just not just that game. It was his play that really got him off the mat against the Clippers before the Clippers fell apart. They were losing game 2, if you guys remember. They were down 10, 12 points in the second quarter, about to go down 0-2 at home. Of course, they caught a break with Kawhi Leonard getting injured.
But Rob, Booker was the man all along, and then they got Durant. So the whole idea getting Durant, not necessarily for him to be the man, that's going to push them over the top. So Durant's got to be a star. So you have two stars coexisting. They can make it work. But you kind of wonder, like what I mentioned to Mac the other day, is Booker trying to hold on to his position? Is there like a quiet competition in his own head that he has to show, I'm the top guy here with the Suns? It's not going to be Durant. Maybe he could share top billing with me, but he's not going to exceed me as the number one guy on the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah. You wonder if Durant's thinking that, And if I'm Durant, I'm 34 years old. I'm a little long in the tooth. And this guy's 26, 20. I mean, I would definitely let him take the more shots if it's me. And maybe I take the shot at the end. But hey, he's got younger legs, man.
Yeah, that's very true. And the last game I want to talk about in the playoffs is the Knicks. We had Keith on. The Knicks looked like they had no drive at all, playing up against the Miami Heat and Butler, who had a great game again. Randall, as Jack mentioned, is probably hurt more than we know. And the rest of the Knicks, if they're going to win the next game, the rest of the Knicks team has got to pick it up and help Randall out for the Knicks to win this.
Yeah, the bench is going to have to pick up. I went back and looked at their records. There's only 3 games difference between the Knicks in the regular season and the Miami Heat. So it's not like this. You feel like the Knicks are favored. They had a home court advantage. But the truth of the matter is there are only 3 games difference. Probably Miami should have won that Atlanta playing game. They would have been a 7th seed. But instead, they're an 8th seed. So I'm not sure if Miami's just not the better team at this point. The Knicks are probably going to need another scorer in the offseason, somebody to play their to kind of offset Randall. And, of course, Brunson can't do it all. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to lean. Maybe he just win this series, even with Butler playing with that bad ankle, guys.
Rob, is Jimmy Butler the most disrespected superstar in the NBA? Because when we talk about the top players in the NBA, his name never even comes up. We talk about Steph Curry. We talk about Embiid. We talk about Giannis, of course. Talk a little about Anthony Davis, Jokic. We just talked about Booker. Durant, but we always put Jimmy Butler behind those guys.
Yeah, I think because people look at his competitive edge and say maybe he's got a bad attitude. Remember, he bounced around to Minnesota, then he goes to Miami. Maybe somebody look at him as a poor man's Russell Westbrook. There's something there with Jimmy Butler, is why he's not getting that. Hey, maybe it's good though. Maybe he's falling under the radar. That's probably why the Knicks are down 2-1 right now. Oh, Mac. I can't hear you, Mac.
There you go. You hear me
okay.
now?
I thought it was mine. I'm sorry.
No. Once in a while, I hit that mute button. I forget to turn it on. Jack's rubbing off on me. A story in the NBA that I think, me and Jack kind of disagree with. Dylan Brooks. Of course, he's not going to be re-signed by Memphis. Memphis has made it clear that they are not going to re-sign him. It was worded like this, and of course, it's their free agent. They're the ones. Yeah, they're the ones that have them. It's very rare for them not to sign your own free agent. But let me get to the wording of this if I can. Let's see. It says not interested in retaining them and not bringing them back. And they did this in a public forum, Robert. I had never seen that happen before. Do you think, Jack doesn't think so, but I think this may hurt his chances to sign with another team because they're all bad-mouthing him in public.
Yeah, you just wonder if there's more to it. Now, he led the league in texts last year. 18. Now, Draymond Green had 17, so he's a little bit of a poor man's Draymond Green. He wants to be more involved offensively. He was averaging 18 points a game just 2 years ago. Now he's down to 14, being more used as a defensive guy. Somebody will pick up Dylan Brooks, but they'll probably have to do a little bit more homework there. I was talking with Carlos, Mad New Yorker Chavez, on my show and saying maybe the Knicks could use an 18 points a game average more because he works hard, he plays defense. I think it'd fit in with the Knicks type of culture. It's just food for thought. But yeah, I think it did hurt him. But I don't think nobody's not going to sign him.
He'll definitely get signed, Mac.
Yeah.
There's no chance of him not signing with a team.
Yeah.
There's no chance. Well, unless he has something in his background that's so bad that none of us know about, the teams don't want to touch. But
yeah, I've never seen that. I've never seen that in basketball. Somebody coming out and actually saying that in public. That's just weird to me.
All they said, he's not going to get signed under any circumstances, but sometimes the headline is very deceiving. Someone may have asked the Memphis GM, for example, is there any circumstance that you can see that you'd sign Dylan Brooks on? Then the GM would say no, just like that. And then the title is under no circumstances. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
A little Major League Baseball news I want to get your take on, Robert.
Okay.
A fan taken out on a stretcher after he was trying to lean over the side to catch a ball in the bullpen, so he falls during the Boston-Philly game. They take him out in a stretcher, which I'm surprised doesn't happen more than it does. It really doesn't happen as much as you'd think. Now, Jack has already called for the fans in the first row to wear seatbelts. He's our safety monitor. So,
did you really?
Yeah, no, he didn't.
well, listen, it's gotta be safe.
The hardest.
You guys laugh at me, but my argument is this with all these safety things, measures with the fans. Why, when someone gets hurt, do they then try to improve the situation as far as safety goes? I mean, why wait for anyone to get hurt? The NBA game yesterday, you saw LeBron jumping into the stands. He hurdled over someone. Another player did. The fans kind of duck for cover. As soon as someone gets badly hurt, they're going to move the fans back there in the court or something, or at least, have certain people sign waivers if they sit there.
Well, I don't know if they don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if they don't sign waivers, Jack. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that's a hell of a story. You could tell their fans.
Okay, laugh at me this, guys. But they have netting now at ballparks that extend to the outfield. Had I said that to you guys years ago, both of you would, you at least, Mac, would have laughed at me. At me how ridiculous that is, having the nettings go to the outfield. But fans have been getting hurt, so now they have it.
I still think it's ridiculous, Jack. How's that? Get off your cell phones and watch the game, and you won't get hit with the baseball.
Mac, you don't want the plastic in the hockey games no more.
No, why?
If you get hit in the mouth, you get hit in the mouth.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding about that one.
Think fast, lady. Put that hot dog down.
No, I think if you're foolish enough to be on your cell phone during the game, and there's a chance you get hit with a baseball, why are you on the cell phone? Watch the game. That's why you're there, right?
Especially when they made these new rules, man. They'll figure out something. Maybe you're at your own risk. There, they can put a sign up. Like those trucks with got those dump trucks. Not responsible for flying objects.
Yes. Stay back 20 feet.
Too close.
Yeah, right. There you go. In baseball, also, Robert, it came out that the Major League Baseball denied a request by the Phillies to let Bryce Harper, who finally got a home run, hit opposite home run to the opposite field yesterday, not wear a brace while he was getting on base, to change into his brace, talking about time concerns. And Jack mentioned maybe injury. But the guy is hurt. He's came back way too early, and he needs that brace to kind of hold him steady when he's running. And I don't see why Manfred, whatever his name is, Manfred.
Rob Manfred.
Yeah, the commissioner. I don't see why he made such a big deal and decided to deny the request.
I wonder if that is one of those deals where it could be an injury to a second baseman or something. Is that the whole school? Okay.
That's what Jack was saying. Yeah, that's what Jack was saying.
And football, you can have those clubs, guys, and knock people around if you got a bad hand.
Right. But I mean,
you would have to brace some, but could you imagine Harper going in to break up a double play? Like Rob saying, the second baseman, the shortstop, knows he has on this brace that he could hit you with and potentially hurt you. They might be a little gun shy in that.
He's going to slide. He's not going to go in head first with a brace on. And he's going to slide feet first like they all do. I mean, he's not going to.
George Carlin had it right, man. Baseball, football.
Yeah. The
baseball range, we go home. We delay the game. In football, and can't even see the jersey numbers. The struggle continues.
That's right. I remember that skit.
Different cultures.
That's true. Very true.
That's part of it. Yeah, I'm okay with that, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just something to be aware of if you're a second baseman. Yeah, he's got this brace on. It may be a little harder impact for a split second there.
Maybe. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Anything else you got for us, Robert, before we let you go?
Well, I tell you what, guys, I was looking at the 401k conservative Green Bay Packers. The 9, they didn't pick up Jordan Love's contract, so they signed him to a 1-year deal. It looks like they saved about $10 million or something like that. Pretty smooth move by Green Bay, if you ask me. I like what they did. This Musgrave guy, this tight end they got in the second round, he was mentioned as one of the better tight ends in the draft, and they picked up a receiver from Michigan State. So he's got 2 years. Aaron Rodgers free to prove himself as a quarterback. I thought that was a really good deal. Plus, the team has we know Watson was coming out last year, breaking out, and now you've added that extra tight end. You've added another receiver. Maybe this next off season, they're going to get probably, I imagine, knock on wood if you're a Jet fan, that they get that first round pick from the Jets there. And the guy's going to get a clean slate. Whether he can play or not, well, that remains to be seen.
I'm going to tell you, Rob, with them getting Jordan Love some offensive help, the type that they didn't really get Aaron Rodgers over his years. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers might do something to get back at the Packers, which he never did for them, defer some of his salary to help the Jet cap situation. I could see Rodgers, and I could see the Packers grumbling. Well, he never did that with us, just as Rodgers is probably grumbling just a little bit, seeing, oh, okay, they're doing that for Jordan. They never did it for me. But you're right. That was a savvy move by the Packers to sign Jordan Love, $13.5 million guaranteed. It could go up to $22 million.
Yeah.
It's win-win because Jordan Love hasn't made much money, as a backup, maybe a few million a year. So he gets a nice payday, and they're not committed to Jordan Love beyond the season. Jordan Love has a year-long audition to show them whether he's their quarterback of the future or not. And if he has a big year, they're going to sign him to a long-term deal. You know what's interesting? Who is going to be on the market probably after this season, unless the Vikings win the Super Bowl? Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see is there a market for him or not, a veteran quarterback who's still pretty good, but who hasn't won.
Yeah, and you just wonder what somebody's going to offer a guy like that. And I'm showing the model of the Minnesota Vikings, say, yeah, Kurt, when we pay you this, we're 31st in defense. If we could pay you about 15, you've already made over $100+ million. If we pay you 15, we can give you defensive help and we can draft some players around you. What do you want to do? Do you want to win, or you still want market money, or what your definition in air quote of market money is? I hated the fact that they drafted. I mean, Jordan Addison's a great player, but man, when you're 31st in total defense, you've already got Justin Jefferson. You can draft some guys around Jefferson and still be productive offensively.
Well, you know what it is? They got Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator. I'm sure. No. I mean, he was successful at Miami.
I love Flores. Yeah,
defense is his thing. So maybe he's looking at the personnel and he feels he's fine with what they have. That it's a coaching situation more than a player situation at Minnesota.
You know what would be interesting? You know how Brett Favre ended up going to Minnesota. He went to the championship, almost went to the Super Bowl with that team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you imagine if Kirk Cousins ends up going to Green Bay? If Jordan Love doesn't cut it, if he goes to Green Bay, the Packers almost go to Super Bowl. That would be very interesting. So I don't know. A comment, Robert, on the Dallas Cowboys. Jim Jeffcoat in here. Just a real quick comment. They said that they had the analysts are saying they had a bad draft. They drafted a tight end that they really didn't need. He's going to be backing up, and there was other tight ends available. They talk about not getting an edge rusher till later in the draft when they could have got a good edge rusher there. And their first round draft pick was a run stopper instead of something more, I don't know, a better draft pick, if you will. What do you think about that analyst?
I didn't hear of any of those. I've seen that tight end a few times now. Michigan guys, they were undefeated during the regular season. For the most part, even if Jim was here, I'd say they actually draft pretty well. Now they did miss on a defensive lineman from Michigan a few years ago. This guy named Taco Charlton, remember him? And so I didn't really hear any major buzz about that tackle from Michigan that they brought in, nor that tight end. But you got to give Dallas the benefit of the doubt because they have picked players correctly to fit their system. And the fact that I did think they should add as much to that defense as possible. Just lean on that defense. Yeah, and that's what McCarthy said. We're going to run the ball and play field position for football. We don't want Dak throwing over 30 times anyways. We don't want to be – and I agree with him there. So there's a chance – if Philadelphia didn't have such a home run, I would consider picking Dallas to win that division. It's a very close division anyways, guys. So I'm on the wait and see approach. I didn't give anybody a terrible grade in the draft. I didn't like that Minnesota first-round pick. And I think
I like Jordan Addison.
he's a great player, but I think they need more to defense. But he'll still be a good player, but they're still going to be giving up a lot of. I know Flores is good, but you need more personnel.
Yeah, but that's the old philosophy. Do you pick according to need, or do you pick the best player available?
Yeah, but most need that most fits your scheme, I think, is part of that saying too. There's some tackles out there at that point. There was some defensive players out there that weren't a big fall off. Joey Porter was picked by the Steelers guys in the first round. He was supposed to be in around the top 15 going to around the Patriots.
Yeah.
He ended up going 32nd, which is, remember, Miami lost their first round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who knocked it out of the park, in my opinion, in the draft.
No doubt. Well, Robert, thank you for coming in as you do every Sunday. We enjoy having you. That's Sports Skope, the host, Robert Butler, seen everywhere, all the time on all sites. So just look up Sports Skope and you'll find Robert Butler. Help him out and keep his show going strong. Thank you for being again, Robert. We'll see you next Sunday.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. It's the original 3 here.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's
Robert,
like old times 3 years ago.
Yes, exactly.
See you guys.
Take care. So there you go. The best dressed guest we have coming into the Mac and Jack Sports Show. As you see, Jack is dressed like a lumberjack right now, and I got my New York Giant shirt on. So, but that's what it is. We'll be right back after this promotional break, folks.
If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
See right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. As you see up there, Robert Butler was just with us, giving us his biggest news stories. We had Keith Engle in earlier with his Pats, Knicks, Yankees update, and Jack looks like he's itching to say something. What do you got, Jack?
I got to get Robert Butler's name off there, but it was gotten off, Mac.
Yes, it was.
That always great at this show.
That's true. Jack, let's get to a couple things that you cover before we get back to the other sports we're covering. Boxing, a big fight. Canelo beats Ryder, unanimous decision. Ryder was saying he didn't want to look past Canelo, and it looks like maybe he did. I don't know what happened there.
Right. I mean, Canelo said he didn't want to look past
Ryder. Right.
But when Canelo Alvarez fights, it's an event. I mean, it was thought to be a one-sided fight going in, and it was. Canelo won a unanimous decision by a very wide margin. He knocked Ryder down a couple of times. One was called a slip. He battered him. He bloodied him. Ryder showed phenomenal courage in going the distance. Canelo badly wanted the stoppage, couldn't quite get it, but he beat Ryder up pretty well. The fight was in Mexico. And what these pay-per-view events have been marketed as, not fights, it's like a happening. When Canelo fights, people are saying, oh, Canelo's fighting, so they get the pay-per-view event. They don't always look at the particular fights being made. You know, it's boxing personalities, big names that attract people. And it wasn't the strongest pay-per-view event, you know, to have. But, you know, if people want to get it for an evening of entertainment, by all means. After the fight, Canelo called out Dimitri Bivol, the fighter who beat him last time at the light heavyweight divisions, you know, 175-pound limit. And he wants to fight Bivol, you know, have a rematch, straighten things out. And Canelo wants to fight Bivol, he says, at 175 pounds. He doesn't want any excuses, that he wants to make Bivol get weight drained. And I don't believe that for a moment, that Canelo is going to hold to that. But conversely, Bivol, strangely enough, says he wants to box Canelo at 168 pounds, go down on weight. But we'll talk about that on Gloved Fist tomorrow night with my co-host, Frank Laterzo, because we just saw Pags come in right now, the Philly sports guy.
How you doing, Pags?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. So, Pags, are you en route to somewhere, or what's going on?
Yeah, I'm actually out and about doing my thing. You know, like I've had a number of different events that I've had this weekend. So
cool.
This is a busy weekend for me.
I'm glad you could make it on. Pags, let's start with the 76ers and their loss. James Harden had a terrible game. He went like 3 for 14 shooting, 5 turnovers, some terrible passes. Is it just past his time, or do you think the defense of the Celtics just got to him?
I think Joel Embiid creates a mismatch for the Sixers against the Celtics. And that sounds so ridiculous to say, but it's when they were playing without Embiid, they went small a lot of the time. And it's funny to say that you went small with B-Ball Paul on there, you know what I mean, when Paul Reed's out there. But truth of the matter is that they were able to contest the threes, and Harden was able to take most of the shots, and he was starting to hit them. So, like, he started off a touch cold in game 1, but got hot. In game 3, everything went through Embiid. Everything. So the fact that, Harden didn't even try to really get hot.
Yeah.
And it made it worse, I think. I think that they really have to start to get creative on how they're going to start attacking the Celtics at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
So that they can actually, 1, contest the shots, and 2, I think that Harden's got to start putting it up more. Same thing with Maxey. Maxey's got to start putting it up more.
Yeah.
I think Harden, that game 1 where he scored 45 points, I don't want to say it was a bit of an aberration because he's done it throughout his career. But these older players past their peak, for a given game, they can do it. We'd see Kobe Bryant do it when he wasn't the same player he was before. And this doesn't mean that Harden doesn't have another big game left in him if needed. But on a consistent basis, Harden's, not the player he was. And the Sixers are really going to have a big decision to make, because to sign Harden for more than 2 years going forward, they're going to have some predicament in the offseason. I don't mean to discourage your Pags. I just don't see the Sixers coming back in this series and actually winning it. I just don't see it happening.
It's definitely going to be an uphill fight. I firmly believe that. You know what I mean? I don't think that, I've said all along that I felt that the Celtics bench and their depth was what is going to get them to the finals.
Yeah.
And that the Sixers got to find answers for that, which means that they have to really, they have to beat not only the Celtics defense, but outscore their offense. And the Celtics have enough players that know how to put the ball in the basket.
Well, Maxey and Tobias Harris have to step up big time. I mean, that's the key. Everyone talks about Embiid and Harden. I want to see Maxey and Harris play on an all-star level. That would be the Sixers' best chance, I feel, of coming back. Because Embiid's going to be good the rest of the series. He should. Embiid's Embiid, one of the best in the game. Harden could maybe have a good game or two going forward, but Maxey and and Harris really have to play at a high level. They're capable of doing it. That's the thing about it. But will they?
Well, especially if Maxey wants to get one of these max contracts, he's got no choice but to have to do that. And that's part of the issue here. It's like he's not stepped up. And this is I feel like these next couple of games are really going to determine what Maxey's worth really is. Because it's one thing to be good against, lesser teams. But if you want to be a champion, and if we're trying to grow a champion here, you got to beat the best, and you got to see how that person goes up against the best. And at the moment, he's falling short.
Yeah. Yeah. In Eagles news, Pags, there's been, and I hate this the way they do this. There's been some anonymous executives that say the Eagles taking Jalen Carton in the first pick was a big mistake. Not only the car crash that killed a couple people, showing up out of shape, and maybe he was a second-round pick at best. What are your thoughts on that?
Those people are whining that they didn't get him. That's why they're anonymous, because they're just trying to put chinks in the armor. He was the best guy in the draft, and yes, there was a situation that occurred. I mean, you got to think about it. It was his friend that died. It was a friend of his. It wasn't just whatever. And you could say it was kids being kids, and an accident happened. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not, I'm not poo-pooing past it at all. But I mean, ultimately, he got there. The Eagles, you don't think the Eagles did their due diligence? You don't think Micah Parsons was angry about the fact that the Eagles got him for a reason?
Yeah.
It's like, I trust when great talent like Micah Parsons is angry that the Eagles, his rival, got the best guy in the draft. That carries more weight than any anonymous source. And Mac, I told you to stop doing anonymous sources. The Giants are not going to be better than the Eagles.
Mac has his sources. That's that I believe. Okay,
Yes,
I've been critical of Mac, but I know Mac has his sources.
Yes, I do. I think he showed up overweight because he was depressed about what happened. I mean, I wouldn't want to go out and train like crazy if my friend just died in a car accident. So I understand that. And Pags, I think the Eagles can make a mistake. Even if they did make a mistake, they got a team that will cover it up, and they'll work with the kid and get him back to where he was before. So I got no problems with the pick the Eagles made.
Alvin, so I got a question for you. As we talk about the Eagles right now, do you think Fletcher Cox is a Hall of Famer?
He's close. But there are a lot of players that should be in the Hall of Fame that are not. Jim Jeffcoat, one of our guys that are on with us, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He was even nominated one time. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Too Tall Jones should be in the Hall of Fame. Bart Oates for the Giants should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people, and I think it's a popularity contest. I think that certain teams get the nod that other teams don't get when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I mean, everybody loves the Steelers. They got a lot of Hall of Fame players in there. And you look at the Cowboys, who are just as successful, played the Steelers unbelievable, don't have as many in there as the Steelers do for that time period anyway, when they were both going into the Super Bowl. The Dallas was almost as good as Pittsburgh, but yet all those Steelers are in, and hardly any of the Cowboys from them matchups are in. So it's go ahead. So I think go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mac. I want to remember Pax's own words that he's used. Fletcher Cox belongs in if it's the Hall of the Very Good. He absolutely belongs in. Is he a true Hall of Famer the way we look at it? Nah.
Yeah.
But the way things are set up and seeing some of the other players that get in, if it's the Hall of the Very Good, the way the Hall of Fames are these days, I have no problem with Fletcher Cox getting in. But he's not in the portal.
Great defensive player, great player for the Eagles. No doubt. Eagles Hall of Fame, easy. If there is one, easily he's in there. No problem at all.
The reason why I even bothered asking that is because, I mean, they've obviously, he's on another 1-year contract. You know, I likely believe he will be on another 1-year contract after this year as well. I think that these are 1-to-1 to 1 year from here on out. And if you believe that he's a Hall of Famer, and I believe that the Eagles think and they believe that he is a Hall of Famer, now you feel like you've got a Hall of Famer training your 2 number 1 draft picks over the next couple of years, and that ultimately greatness is able to train other people to become great as well. I feel like that's the reason why that they have him here, and that's the reason why they chose these picks, and that these guys could be around each other for a really long time. That I would suspect that it's going to be a Georgia Bulldog middle of the line for years. Like, I think the Eagles are going to have these 2 guys for years, not just a couple.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, the former Eagle GM Joe Douglas tried to get Fletcher Cox to come to the Jets for this season. Okay. And Fletcher Cox seriously considered it before deciding, Philadelphia is where he wants to be. You make a great point with Jalen Carter. If Fletcher Cox turns out to be a great mentor, a great teacher, as someone who Jalen Carter looks up to, that could actually extend Fletcher Cox's career as an Eagle to keep him around, as long as he's somewhat effective on the field, which you have to assume he'll continue to be at least a couple of more years. So that's a good point. How much of a mentor, in the locker room, taking him under his wings, seeing Jalen Carter does the right thing going forward.
Yeah.
I agree.
Go ahead, Pags. Well, what I was going to say, Pags, is with that new defensive coordinator, I know they brought over the Patriots former coach to be an advisor, but with that new defensive coordinator, you're going to need players like Fletcher Cox on the field to help coach these young kids too, not just be mentors, but to show them the ropes on the field. So I think Fletcher Cox will be there for at least another couple of years.
Well, yeah, I don't know about a couple, but I think it's definitely 1-to-1, I think, from here on out. So I think he'll go for another 1-year deal after this, as long as he has a really good season. I suspect that he will have a really good season as long as they are able to rotate them in and out like he did last year. And Dominican Sue actually took a lot of pressure off of Cox last year, by able to go in there and do that. And even Joseph, who didn't play very much and wasn't very good out of here, actually took pressure off of Fletcher Cox. So he went from playing 65-70% of the snaps down to 35-40% of the snaps and became much more effective.
Sure.
And I feel like that's part of what's going on this year as well. I think that you're going to see Fletcher Cox play about 40% of the snaps, and he'll be a lot more effective. And by doing that, it's going to prolong his career for at least another year or so.
I'm a little surprised he's back, and I'm going to tell you why. Because not that long ago, he was a disgruntled player, and coaches don't like that. You know, when a guy's complaining a lot, you know, and a veteran like him, they feel it could wear off on other players, and supposedly they straighten things out.
Well, and now that coach, I mean, I can't wait for a few years from now when Gannon is fired from Arizona, because I think Arizona is the next mess of a franchise that's going to show up.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what all went down. That there was that they had to give up a 3rd round pick. You know, there was some stuff that happened that's right now behind the scenes. I'd love to be the fly on the wall that somebody was saying, you know, that everything was going on with, to be able to tell this properly.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a story. That is absolutely going to be a story. And that story may go all the way to the Super Bowl.
That's possible. That's possible, Pags. And a little bit Phillies news. Of course, we already talked about Harper and his brace with you. He did get his first home run, opposite field home run. I don't know if you were at that game or not, Pags.
I was not, actually. I was doing the inaugural game of the Major League Cornhole.
Yes, Pags in his cornhole. Pags, a fan fell out of the
yesterday.
Yeah, and they took him out on a stretcher. And as I told Robert, Jack, of course, wants everybody in the front row to wear seatbelts now, so that they don't fall out of the front row. But you know, I am surprised that this doesn't happen more, Pags. I really am. I feel bad for the guy. You know, he wants to get his little, his little prize of getting the baseball. And you know, if you're talking top row, which you know they're very steep in Major League Baseball. You know, one of those shots get up there, one fan reaches over. I mean, he could die falling down, you know, all the way down to the first row.
So it's standing room only up there. And now is what's going to happen. What this is going to cause is they're going to raise that bar some now. They're going to force that up higher so that you're not going to be able to get baseballs and such like that. It's just, it's unfortunate when it happened. You know, I love to have seen how he did it. You know, like, was he reaching over so much that he fell over and stuff like that, and he fell on his back? I mean, it was, the whole situation was a little ridiculous. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, it's like it's never happened before because it's standing room only. It's not like you're sitting up on a chair and you're reaching over like this and you lose all your momentum. It's like, I mean, to be honest, I think that they took him out on a stretcher more for safety reasons, right? Because the kid looked okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looked like he didn't want to be in the stretcher.
Yeah.
But
okay. Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I mean, it's just like it was ridiculous, and you know, unfortunately, he ruined it for everybody else now.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. But like I said, I know in Yankee Stadium, you know, the one I went to, very steep, and there are fall balls that make it up there. And Jack does have a point where, you know, somebody reaches over, that's a long fall, and you're gonna fall on people, and who knows what can happen.
So yeah, it's only about a 12-foot fall from where he fell.
Okay.
To the, like, if he was falling into the Phillies bullpen, that had been a tremendous fall.
Yeah.
Guys, you know, I know I'm paranoid about things like that, but in March, when I went to the World Baseball Classic game in Miami between Venezuela and Israel, there were so many empty seats because it was a noon game on a Wednesday afternoon. But I asked for, you know, like an aisle seat. They put me in the front row of the, like, second, third level. It's a dome stadium there in Miami. But I remember looking down, and it's like, wow, if you lose your balance, you fall all the way down there, you could get killed. And no, there was no one around me. So during the standing the national anthem, I took a couple of steps behind the plexiglass just in case I lose my balance. And let's say I faint for the first time in my life. I'm not going to fall over the thing. And I'm like paranoid about where I'm sitting, right? How far down it is. You get that on the elevator, going upstairs to the games too. It's a little scary.
And make sure you chew your food 21 times so that that it's small enough so that you don't choke.
I already do that. I already do that. Yeah.
Well, Pags, we talked about, of course, Jack brought up the netting in baseball, and the balls, the crowd not able to get a baseball anymore, and to me, that's all about cell phones and not paying attention to the game. Get off your cell phone. Watch the game. That's why you're there. And if a foul ball comes your way, at least you'll be able to move out of the way if you don't want to try and catch it. So that's a big problem they have too in the stands. You gonna be able to stick with us to the end, Pags, or you got to go?
I can stay with you a little longer.
Okay, cool. So we covered Philly news. We covered the Yankee news. We covered the Giant news. No, we haven't covered the Giant news yet. But I'm going to let you go.
Cover the Giant news with Pags. I'll listen in. I won't say anything. You and Pags could talk New York Giant football.
Pags is interested. Pags is interested in the Giants. He doesn't like to admit it, but he's interested.
Maybe, so you're inferring that Pags considers the Giants somewhat of a threat, so he's keeping an eye on them. Is that what you're saying?
I think they keep an eye on. I think they keep an eye on each other. They want to know what each other's doing. I mean, they've they're playing against each other.
Pags, who are you more? Well, this is a good question for Pags. Who are you more concerned of as a Philly guy? The Mets being a threat in the NL East to the Phillies in the long run, or the Giants to the Eagles?
What's the third option?
The Knicks to the Sixers, or the Knicks to the Sixers. Who's the biggest threat going forward in the next year? Not right, maybe in this moment, in the next year.
If I had to rank the three of them, as I'd probably say the Giants more than the Mets or the Knicks. Truth of the matter is that none of them really move my needle. I feel like the Eagles are so much better than the Giants right now, and that's not really a reflection on the Giants. I think it's more a reflection on the Eagles. I think that the Giants have moved into the number 2 spot in the division. I think that they have gone above Dallas, but they're still a ways behind the Eagles right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Notice he's saying that when Jeffcoat isn't here on the show this week. I don't think Pags would say it to Jeffcoat's face.
I absolutely would say it to Jeffcoat, and at the moment he start to talk about it, I can tell him all the reasons why I believe it.
There you go. So maybe next Sunday we'll talk about that. So let's get to some Jets news. They kept Corey Davis rather than worrying about the salary cap space of $10.5 million. Now the Jets have plenty of receivers now, Jack, and I know Corey Davis is talented. What do you feel? Do you think they should have just cut him and kept the $10 million?
Obviously, the coaching staff likes him a lot, and they don't want to move on from him. And because they added Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Corey Davis conceivably could emerge as the number 2 receiver on the team behind Garrett Wilson. I mean, Maybe that was their plan at the end of last season. And, Robert Saleh got a little testy about all the when people have mentioned all the moves the Jets have done to accommodate Aaron Rodgers. He says that's ridiculous. We got those guys because they're good players. But let's be honest about it. If Rodgers wasn't a Jet, Alan Lazard wouldn't be a Jet. Randall Cobb wouldn't be a Jet. This is not to say they're not going to be a big help to him, but they've made moves to accommodate Aaron Rodgers. I kind of wonder, though, guys, They got Nathaniel Hackett as offensive coordinator, not knowing for sure that they could sign Aaron Rodgers. Was that a move to get Aaron Rodgers, or they really liked Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator? Because, when he was the head coach at Denver, obviously things didn't work out with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, listen, I think Hackett has a history of being a good offensive coordinator, but there's no doubt they got Hackett to lure Rodgers over there. I don't know what Pax thinks, but that's the main reason.
I kind of feel that they, it made it easier, for them to get him. Truth of the matter is that, I mean, when you really think about this, are the Jets really a Super Bowl contending team?
Yes, I think they are. And that this isn't the say they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but when you have guys like Sauce Gardner, who's arguably the best cornerback in the game right now after his rookie year, arguably, Sauce Gardner. He goes out with Aaron.
That's a long argument, by the way. It's a long argument.
You can make that argument, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying he is, but you can make the argument, okay? And no one's going to laugh at it because he is one of the top corners right now, okay? But he went out with Aaron Rodgers to the Knicks game. They got a great relationship. He wants to pick Aaron Rodgers' brain, how he could be a better cornerback, sit down, go over things. Aaron Rodgers has picked defenses apart throughout his career. He could be a big help to guys on the defensive side of the ball. No one ever talks about that element because he's been through it all, a veteran like that.
So much so that he did it with Green Bay all that often.
It's a little different here in New York. This is a happy Aaron Rodgers. Mac pointed this out. Aaron Rodgers
is so happy right now because he just got back out of ayahuasca and he's
Aaron Rodgers. Mac described him with the Packers as the unhappiest guy in the NFL last season. Now he's like the happiest guy in the NFL. He's giddy. This is the second coming of Joe Namath, Pags. Aaron Rodgers loves New York. He loves it. He's embracing it. I mean, everyone loves Aaron Rodgers here in New York. I mean, he's a savior. The Jet fans already love the guy.
Let's fast forward here. They start off 0-3.
It's not happening.
Anything is possible, so don't tell me that it's not happening.
No,
they start off 0-3. How happy do you think he's going to be? Let's talk about that for half a second. They could absolutely start off this season. They could absolutely start off this season playing the Eagles, playing Buffalo, and playing I don't know who they play in it, but like the number one seed in the AFC North or whatever, Cincinnati. And they could wind up playing all those teams and feasibly start off 0-3. So it's not ridiculous to think that. What do you think his mentality level is going to be if that's the case?
It depends on how the offense is being run. If they're playing very well, they're putting up a lot of points, and the defense breaks down, then, he'll be frustrated that they're 0-3, and it's not going to look like they're not going to go to the Super Bowl at that point. But, Green Bay, when he was with Green Bay, the one year they won the Super Bowl, they went on a big run at the end of the year. Even last year, they lost the last game of the season. They were out of it, and they went on a big run. They wouldn't be giving up. I think they would clamp down at that point to 0-3 and battle back harder. It would be the fan base that would have a certain unrest. And the only way that turns around to be bad for Aaron Rodgers if he's playing poorly, because then people are going to question, is he too old? Has his better days behind him? But I think at that point, he's going to want to have something to prove. He's come to the OTAs early. He's ready this year. He's working with his receivers. He's not taking any chances. He needs this. He's revitalized.
I think.
Keep in mind, I just want to say one more thing. Tom Brady, the year they won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, they were struggling over the first 12 games. They were 7-5 and struggling. it might, and people might have to understand it takes a little while to put it together.
You're correct. That's what I'm saying. That it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could start off 0-3. It's not out of the realm. That doesn't mean that they're going to end 0-17. But it does mean that it could be, that they are out of the gate and they have a losing record in the first half of the season.
I think the bigger question is what happens if they don't make the playoffs this year and they don't make the Super Bowl in the next few years. That's the bigger question. Is the Aaron Rodgers deal a good deal or a bad deal? I think that's the bigger question. They should make the playoffs as a wild card team this year. If they don't, then the fans are going to get a little upset. And if they don't make the Super Bowl in the next 3 years, then you may see Salah get fired. And that's going to be the bigger question, Jack.
Well, I what I think the biggest question is, and Pags can relate to this with the Philadelphia Eagles of last year. It's a long season. Teams can play great most of the season, but you kind of run out of gas and there's fatigue. That Eagle defense we saw in the Super Bowl, that's not the real Eagle defense, but something about it, they hit a wall like a marathoner hits a wall. And that's what happened to the Eagle defense at the end of the year. Even at the end of the regular season, they lost their little edge from being a dominant, great defensive team. And then the playoffs were a bit of an aberration because the Eagles really weren't tested. They had a giant team. They were so much better than they were. It was inevitable they were going to win that game. And then they played a 49er team that didn't have a quarterback. In reality, they weren't really tested. And then they played the Chiefs. That wasn't the same Eagle defense we saw most of the season. I think a certain fatigue set, and that's my fear with the Jets. They could have a great regular season. We've seen this with Aaron Rodgers and this pack of teams. And then they hit a certain wall in the playoffs after having such a great regular season. For all we know, the Jets could go 13-4 during the regular season. And then come playoff time, they run out of steam at that point. And Aaron Rodgers runs out of steam at the end of the year.
I don't know. I guess that's possible. So Giants news, of course. All the teams have started the rookie camps. I was going to ask Jeffcoat about this, but you have like 73 players that go to these camps. You have the draft picks that have signed. You've
Not Saquon Barkley, Mac. Your man didn't show up.
Well, he doesn't have to come to voluntary workouts. But anyway, especially with a rookie camp, Jack, he's not going to be at the rookie camp. But anyway, you have the veterans that are looking to get signed, the rookies, tryouts. You have everything going on here. The thing that's interesting to me is that it's like the combine because they're only in helmets and shirts, and that's all they're wearing. And how can you really pick up what are these players you're going to keep if they're not at least hitting a little bit, if they're not wearing shoulder pads? I don't know how they do it today. I really don't.
I mean, obviously, it's the first week. They're trying to teach these guys the playbook to see who gets it and stuff like that. It's not a matter of eating. We have 12 weeks, 13 weeks before we start football. You don't want these guys to start getting hurt now. This is not back, football from the 50s and 60s. Back when you were middle-aged, Mac. This is not that time.
You want to know something? Mac is old school. For example, you mentioned Fletcher Cox before, but you ask Mac, the greatest defensive player, greatest player period in Philadelphia Eagle history, he'll tell you Chuck Bednarik, old school. Now that was a player, hard-hitting. Even Jeffcoat said they should have pads on. Let me tell you something interesting. This is bad for you, Pags, and good for Mac with, your respective teams. Saquon Barkley is in Arizona now working out with DeAndre Hopkins every day. And I don't understand the relationship, how they met. But DeAndre Hopkins kind of has an eye in Arizona. There's a good chance they're going to move him and he might have some say in it. Could you imagine Saquon signs a deal with the Giants and DeAndre Hopkins? It's based partly on DeAndre Hopkins coming to the Giants. Because if he came to the Giants, DeAndre Hopkins, that could be a game changer for this season.
Not this season, because they still got Daniel Jones throwing the ball.
Daniel Jones is a decent quarterback. I mean, I don't put him on the level of Jalen Hurts.
Whatever you want, whatever you feel like telling yourself. I mean, I think that's the problem. That their problem really exists with Daniel Jones.
I'm not high on Daniel Jones, but he's good enough to win there, I think.
You guys kill me.
I can think of 10 quarterbacks that are better than him in the NFC.
You guys kill me. You really do.
Yeah.
The guy leads the Giants to the playoffs with no wide receivers, an offensive line that can't hold anybody off. He has to run. He has to throw the ball on the run most of the time. He's getting knocked around like a pinball, gets back up, and you guys just keep sounding on Daniel Jones. You wait till this year, Pags, when Daniel Jones lights up the Eagles for one game, and then we'll talk about it. When he absolutely lights up that secondary you got there.
Oh, because he's done it so often? Because he's done it so frequently, right?
Well, he hasn't had the opportunity with the team he's been on, Pags.
Oh. All of a sudden now, he's going to have it.
Yeah, he's got some receivers. He's got some.
Okay.
He's got some speed at wide receiver now. He's got one of the best tight ends when healthy in the league. You watch how he plays this year.
Here, I'm going to give you a premonition. With the number 13 or 14 pick in the NFL draft.
Oh my God!
The New York Giants select blah 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 quarterback from wherever.
Do you know how silly you sound right now? Do you have any?
Okay.
I think they're kind of too committed to Daniel Jones. Unless Daniel Jones.
They're committed to him for 2 years. For 2 years, they're committed for him.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But I think the Giants. I mean, I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones fan. I'll be honest. I don't think he's that good, but I think he's good enough where they could win with him the right.
All right. And NFC East right now, put the quarterbacks in the right order. What order would you put the quarterbacks in?
Jalen Hurts is the best now. He passed Dak Prescott is on probation. This is a big year for him. I'll put him ahead of Daniel Jones now. Give him the benefit. I'll give Dak the benefit of the doubt, but I'm keeping a careful eye on Dak. I don't like the year he had last year.
So, all right, and then I would go Marcus Mariota.
No.
As the number 3 quarterback. And then Daniel Jones is the 4th.
No, the Eagle backup Mariota is not ahead of Daniel Jones. Get out of here.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, he's just a Giant hater. He's been a Giant hater right now. Giant hater right now.
Daniel Jones.
I'm actually not. I think that the Giants would do better with Marcus Mariota as the quarterback than they would with Daniel
You're
Jones.
just silly.
Some guys have been given opportunities to start in the league, and they haven't held on to jobs. Marcus Mariota was with Tennessee for years. He didn't turn out to be their franchise quarterback. The Raiders gave him a chance. He didn't cut it there as a starter. So I don't want to hear about Marcus Mariota. He just hasn't lived up to expectations.
Listen, it's simple to me. You got Jalen Hurts, number 1. There's no doubt. Daniel Jones edges out Dak Prescott. Prescott's 3rd, and then whoever quarterbacks for Washington, whoever the quarterback's going to be for Washington.
No, Dak deserves the benefit of the doubt for his years of performance. I'll say this for Daniel Jones. He had a better year last year than Dak Prescott had. You could argue that.
And he's going to be better.
You want, but on balance. But the expectations were much higher for Dak Prescott. So maybe we're being more critical.
And this year, Jack, now we're talking about this year. And this year, Jones has more weapons. The tight end.
But the Cowboys got Brandon Cooks.
That's fine. They can keep
it. They got Ronald Jones. They can have as well.
They can have. The Giants will sign Barkley. Barkley's better than any Cowboy running back they got. Better
Correct.
than any Eagle running back, by the way, too. He's they got Waller, who's going to be one of the better tight ends in the league. You've got wide receiver. You got depth at wide receiver. We've never had.
Waller hasn't hardly played the last couple of years.
I understand that. I understand that.
But he's good. He's real good. It could work out. Everything falls into place.
It could.
If everything falls into place. Yeah, I agree.
All right.
But you look at the other conferences. You put Daniel Jones ahead of Justin Fields, for example.
No, of course not.
No.
Justin Fields is a rising player. You could say at this moment, Daniel Jones is a little ahead of Justin Fields, but Justin Fields is a riser.
Yeah, at this moment, I put Jones ahead of him. We'll see what happens.
Jared Goff.
Yes.
You put him ahead of
No.
Goff.
Yeah, right.
Went to a Super Bowl already.
At this time, yeah.
Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
No.
He already beat
ahead
Kirk
of Kirk Cousins, an established QB.
You were saying right now, Jack. He already showed. Didn't they just play the Vikings?
And the Giants did win that playoff game, but Kirk Cousins' regular season was stronger.
Yeah, his regular season was definitely.
I put him ahead of Jordan Love, Daniel Jones, right now, because Jordan Love, we have to see what he could do.
Of course. You
put him ahead.
Go ahead.
I would put him ahead of Brock Purdy as Sam Darnold with the Niners right now. But Sam Darnold might have a big year this year, might finally come into his own, but it remains to be seen. I wouldn't put him ahead of Matthew Stafford.
I would.
The Rams.
I would. Stafford's old and hurt.
Put him ahead of Stafford, the Super Bowl.
At this time.
If Stafford is healthy, he's obviously ahead of Daniel Jones.
That's so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous where you're putting him. You're just on the Giants. Just on the Giants. He sucks in comparison to all those quarterbacks. He sucks in comparison to all those quarterbacks.
Listen, I'm stating facts, Pags. Who was the second? Wait a minute.
There ain't no fact in it. The fact that you think that he's better.
Who was the second? Who was the third leading quarterback rushing in the NFC last year?
Okay, and let's go with just total yards in general. Total yards, rushing, and passing.
He ran.
If
I'm not mistaken, I'm close. He passed for over 3,000 yards and ran for over 357 yards.
Great.
I mean, you're pointing to numbers. Why don't we look at what he's done for the 4 years he's been with the Giants?
You can't. That's an old argument. You can't.
He's been there. No, it's not an old argument.
All of a sudden that's an old argument. We can only go by last year, and last year makes him so much better than most of the quarterbacks in the NFC. That sounds so ridiculous.
I honestly, Pags, I think he's in the top 15 quarterbacks.
Could I tell you something? Why don't we focus a little? Okay, why don't we focus one of the playoff games against the Eagles? The last game, he was completely shut down.
No kidding. And so was a lot of teams that played the Eagles, Jack. The Eagles are the best.
No, but in the playoffs, he did nothing at all. Couldn't do a thing with an elite defense.
The Eagles had twice the team the Giants had.
He did well against, like you described, the 31st rated defense in the NFL, the Vikings.
But all I'm saying, Jack, what team? Now, win and loss is not a quarterback stat; it's a team stat. What team last year could have beat the Eagles in that playoff game?
The Chiefs did quite well.
About the Chiefs Super Bowl. What team in the NFC could have bet the Eagles in that playoff game last year? What team?
Nobody.
Thank you.
We said team, but
I bet you that there would have been other teams that gave them better games.
Again, other quarterbacks would have maybe scuffed the Eagle defense up a bit. And Daniel Jones didn't even ruffle his feathers at all.
There is no quarterback in the NFC last year, Jack, that could have stopped that Eagles. No offense that could have stopped that Eagles defense last year. There's none.
I don't disagree, but what I'm saying, other quarterbacks could
have been better than 38-7.
Yeah,
more competitive.
Teams, yes.
But I do agree with you. The wide receiver they drafted, if he's a real steal, and Saquon Barkley in the backfield, and if Wallace stays healthy, yeah, they've got pieces around them now.
Well,
They shored up the offensive line a little bit.
listen.
Yeah,
So let's think about this a little differently. That Detroit actually made it into the playoffs and wound up going up against the Vikings.
They went 9-8. They went 9-8, and they didn't quite make the playoffs.
But no, they missed it by 1 point because Seattle wound up winning.
Right.
Yeah, Seattle wound up getting in.
And
So
Seattle
ultimately,
substantially.
I think that if Seattle didn't make it and Detroit made it in their spot, that it's possible that Detroit would have given a much better game
To the Eagles?
than the Giants did.
I agree with that, Pat. No doubt. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, so that puts Jared Goff.
Listen, you think I'm delusional. I don't think the Giants are anywhere close to a Super Bowl team right now. I don't. But I think that 2-3 years from now, they got a shot. They'll be competing for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it plays out. You know what people don't look? People look at a whole season, but they don't break down the season and going forward for the next one. And what would be alarming to me about the Giants? They started 6-1 last year. Then they were 3-6-1. So if you take the Giants from the midway point where they were 3-6-1 over the regular season after starting 6-1, if that's an indication of the Giant team going forward, we might be looking at
you can add to that, and you could, Jack, you can add to that concern that 6-1 record, they barely won those games. Most of those games.
So how strong a team of the Giants?
Jack, I think they got the coaching staff in place. They're going to be a very solid team this year. I don't know if they'll win a playoff game or not this year. I don't know, but they got a very solid coaching staff and a very hard-working, aggressive team. They don't give up, and that's one thing I love about the Giants. They never give up. I don't care what the score is. So anyway, let's get off the Giants for a little bit. Let's talk. Pags, did you pay attention? I know you were on yesterday. Did you pay attention to Kentucky Derby at all?
A very, very little bit. I didn't get to see much of what was going on. So
they had this Ma J won the race, only his 4th time racing, won the Kentucky Derby. 4th race ever. So that was pretty cool. And
it was a close race from what I saw.
Yeah, Marge came on towards the end, and two fills, the horse leading most of the way, did well to finish in second. And
the number 14 horse.
You know,
I had the 7, 14, 21 originally, because I had the 3, 10, 19. And both the 10 and the 19 were wound up scratched. So had I mixed up a 3 and a 14, I probably would have had 2 of the 3. But
I mean, all the people that bet on it, it has a lot of fun. I guess if someone traveled to Kentucky and they stayed at a big hotel and their room number was 684, they'll bet 684 for a trifecta. I mean, that's how I think most people bet. I mean, you try to be a knowledgeable bettor, but it's so hard, you know. You just hope. If you have fun money to put down and you take a long shot, and who knows whether you could get lucky in that.
I know you've been real busy. You probably haven't been following the NHL like you've been in the past, Pags. But anything that you heard that really surprised you in the playoffs yesterday?
Edmonton looks like a cup contender.
Okay.
That's the one thing that's a little bit surprising to me. I mean, I know they got Connor McDavid and such like that, but their goaltending is actually starting to, step up to the plate here a little bit. Carolina, I think it's going to be Carolina and Edmonton.
Okay.
In the cup, I think Toronto is doing what Toronto does, stink up the joint. They finally got past their first series, and now they're going to lose in the second series.
The Florida Panthers up 2-0 against the Maple Leafs. They should win that series. I've been watching them, and even though they barely got in the playoffs this year, and they weren't expected to beat the Bruins, and they came back from a 3-1 deficit to do it. And even that 7th game to score a goal in the last minute, pulling their goalie. They were outstanding last year, and they have their nucleus back this year, even though they didn't have as good of a year. I get the feeling this is a team that's going to go on a run and get to the finals. I mean, something about them. They seem like to be
again, they go as far as the goalie, and that goalie is amazing. He used to be a Flyer. He should have still been a Flyer. It was Ed Snyder's last move as owner, getting rid of him. Bobrovsky. If he was still a Flyer, we would have wound up winning a couple of cups.
That's heart, right as your franchise goalie.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved in the offseason.
Wow, and he was supposed to be the wave of the future, for the Flyers.
I think this team is in such disarray that we are killing him as a goaltender. It's time for him to move on so that he can actually be the goaltender he needs to be, or he should be.
I think teams are scared sometimes, and this is any sport, to move on from a player because they're scared to see what he might do elsewhere.
Well, I've seen Bobrovsky, who is the goaltender for the Panthers, and since we've gotten rid of him, he's only won like 2 Vezina trophies, and is just again about to lead the Panthers. Like I said, Bobrovsky is the one guy who could beat the Hurricanes. I don't think that team can beat the Hurricanes. Bobrovsky can beat the Hurricanes. And if he does, then I expect that the Panthers
You
will win
don't
the
feel
cup.
there's any way back for the New Jersey Devils down 2-0.
I don't think so either.
I wouldn't keep this in mind. The Devils were down 2-0 against the Rangers, and no one was giving them much of a chance. And the
last game was what, 6-0?
They won games 3 and 4 on Ranger ice.
Last game was 6-0 now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but that sometimes happens. Sometimes it's better to lose that way.
That means they're getting the goalie's head. They're getting the goalie's head.
And Jack, the Rangers coach has left.
Yeah, Gallant got fired. Yeah, I love the way they say they mutually agreed to part ways. I mean, what does that mean exactly? He would give you all your money. They have to give him his money, what he'd be owed anyway. But what do they mean mutually agreed to part ways? I don't get it. Maybe that's a kind way of saying we're not firing you. A guy doesn't want to be fired because it looks bad on his record. There's one guy in boxing who'll get a kick out of this, a publicist once. We had a meeting at the Boxing Writers Association of America, and before the meeting, he told me that they announced the organization. I won't name the promotional group. He said they're putting out a statement that they're going to part ways with him so he could spend more time with his family. But he says, Jack, I got fired. That's the truth of the matter. So at the meeting of all the members of the Boxing Writers, as president at the time, I said, we congratulate our colleague for moving on because he wants to spend more time with his family. And he was cracking up because we both knew he got fired.
Right.
All right, folks, that wraps it up for today's show. I want to thank Philly guy making his way in, even though he's traveling. Thanks, Pags. Thank you, Robert Butler. Thank you to Keith Engle coming in as they always do. Thank you for sharing the show with us. Go ahead, Jack. You got something?
Just one quick thing before we go off. You've been challenged to a debate over full show by a Mr. Frank Laterzo, the Philly fan against the Philly hater. That's his name. He wants to go one-on-one. We want to have him on a Mac and Jack show with you. And he's the anti-Philly guy for one show.
Fine. We'll bring it on a Saturday or something.
All right, there you go. All right, folks. We'll see you. We'll be back on Thursday. Jack and Frank are on Glove Fist on Monday night. Have a great Sunday. Go out there, go fishing, do something. It's beautiful out here. Go out and have some fun. Get outside. Get away from the computer after you're done watching this. Have a great Sunday, folks. And me and Jack, we'll see you on Thursday.